Okay, I have before me two articles, one on herd behavior in humans and another on mean girls, essentially. And we have some questions that need to be answered about these two articles. So question 1 on the first article, in line 13, what does the word driven mean? So if we look at the article, and it says right here, that's where driven is. The full sentence, it often has a connotation of irrationality, as people's actions are driven by emotion rather than by thinking through a situation. So, if we look at our options, we have compelled, administered, determined, and guide. So if we plug each of those in, for the first one, compelled, we get it often has a connotation of irrationality, as people's actions are compelled by emotion rather than by thinking through a situation. That one sounds very good right now, so we'll mark that and remember that. The next one, administered, it often has a connotation of irrationality, as people's actions are administered by emotion rather than by thinking through a situation. That one doesn't sound quite right. I don't feel like it gets the author's purpose across enough, so we'll nix that one for now. C, determined. It often has a connotation of irrationality, as people's actions are determined by emotion rather than by thinking through a situation. That one's good too, but I still believe compelled better explains the author's purpose. And then the last one, guide. It often has a connotation of irrationality, as people's actions are guided by emotion. Well, that's not even the right context. So the answer, of course, is A, compelled. The next question that we have, what would be the tone based on the herd behavior passage? And so we have instructive, scientific, demeaning, or idyllic. Well, instructive, it's not really instructing anything. It doesn't necessarily say anything that we need to change, so that one's not correct. Scientific, it doesn't have enough evidence to convey more of a scientific meaning. Demeaning, that is very demeaning to people. We're being compared to herds of animals. And idyllic, it's just not idyllic, we know that. So the answer is C. Number 3. Based on the passage, what is the main idea? This is still on the herd behavior. So humans relate to herd behavior, animals relate to humans, and humans' judgment shuts down in danger, and people's actions are driven by emotion. Well, the first one, it sounds right. It sounds right enough. So we'll remember that one. B, animals relate to humans. They don't really draw a connection between animals coming from humans. It's more humans coming from animals, so we'll nix that. Humans' judgment shuts down in danger. That could be a correct answer too. We'll remember that. And people's actions are driven by emotion. D, that sounds more like what the author's purpose is trying to convey. People's actions are driven by emotion, and that emotion creates herd behavior. So while both of these, A and B, sound correct, D is the best answer. Okay, next question. From the passages, both passages, we can infer that people don't have opinions, women have more herd behavior than men have more herd behavior than women, and herd behavior is an evolution-derived instinct. Well, people don't have opinions. That's not necessarily true. It's just saying that when herd behavior sets in, an individual's person's judgment and opinions kind of go out the window. So that's not necessarily true. B, women have more herd behavior than men, and C, men have more herd behavior than women. There's no really connection between the genders of people. They all are put together and saying that they have herd behavior. And D, herd behavior is an evolution-derived instinct. We can look at the second passage, and it points to evolution driving women to become mean girls, essentially. And so I think D is the best answer. Alright, number 5. This is a direct question. From this passage in the Mean Girls, which best describes the reasoning for Mean Girls? So A, evolution, B, protective instincts, C, aggression, and D, psychology. Well, we know that it explicitly says evolution drives these instincts, So that one's sounding pretty correct right now. B, protective instincts. It does say that too. It's maternal instincts to protect their young, and so they naturally get more aggressive. C, aggression. Well, that's kind of the obvious answer, so that doesn't sound specific enough. And D, psychology. That is true too, but the question is asking direct, and so A is the correct answer because it says explicitly in the passage evolution is what brings about that Mean Girls psychology. Okay. Number 6, this is on the Mean Girls passage as well. Which of the following are behaviors of mean girls? A, physical competition and aggression. B, agreement with peers. C, all women are inherently violent. And D, it is only a psychological game. Well, A, that is very explicitly stated in the passage. Physical competition and aggression are behaviors of mean girls. B, agreement with peers, that's the complete opposite, so we'll take that one out right now. C, all women are inherently violent. That's not necessarily true, so we'll forget about that one. And D, it is only a psychological game. And it can be a psychological game, especially for women, but it also says they use physical aggression as well. So A is the correct answer. Okay. Number 7. Which passage best justifies that answer? So the previous answer. A, the passage, let's look at that. So in the Mean Girls passage, towards the end, the second to last paragraph, it says, this manifests psychologically, she suggests, through women having a lower threshold for fear and better ability to rein emotional behavior. So if we answered physical aggression and competition, or physical competition and aggression, excuse me, is the correct answer, then that wouldn't really prove anything. It doesn't say anything about physical competition and aggression. B, where is that? It's on the first page of the Mean Girls article. Evolutionary biology, for example, is often described in terms of nature, red in tooth and claw, yet aggression, in particular aggressive competition for mates, has long been viewed as the domain of males. Well, that's talking about males, not really females, so that's incorrect. C, on the back page again at the top, human females have a particular proclivity for using indirect aggression, which is typically directed at other females, especially attractive and sexually available females. So that could be a correct answer because it does kind of prove physical competition and aggression are used, but it does say, it says for using indirect aggression, so that kind of goes more with the previous question of D, the answer. So that's not the greatest answer yet. Then D, D, unlike physical fights, there's a low chance of injury, and few studies suggest that young women who use indirect aggression are mean girls, have sex at an earlier age, and are more likely to be a dating relationship in their peers, especially compared with the subjects of their aggression. So that does prove that the main behavior of mean girls is physical competition and aggression. And the last question, number 8. According to the article, what are the positive outcomes of herd behavior? So this goes back to the first article. A, people will copy others. B, people will have worse judgment in crisis. And C, people can be pushed towards good decisions. And D, herd behavior becomes trendy. So this is asking what the positive outcomes of herd behavior. So people will copy others. That's not necessarily a positive outcome. It could be a correct answer. We'll kind of sit in the back of our minds. B, people will have worse judgment in crisis. That is not a good answer because we're asking about the positive outcomes. C, people can be pushed towards good decisions, and that sounds like a very good answer because that is a positive outcome to herd behavior. D, herd behavior becomes trendy. That's kind of a neutral answer. It's not necessarily good or bad. So the correct answer in that would be C, people can be pushed towards good decisions. And number 9, which evidence supports your answer? So, first one, people in a crisis that requires escape will attempt to move faster than normal, copy the actions of others, interact physically with each other, and ignore alternative strategies in favor of following the mass escape trend. That is not a positive outcome that comes out of it. It says ignore alternative strategies in favor of following the mass escape trend. That does not give a good connotation, so that is not a correct answer. Letter B. Herd behavior does not always have such harmful effects and can be influential in people's everyday simple decisions. That one is correct because it says positive things about it, and it can be influential in people's everyday simple decisions because it does not always have a harmful effect. C. A more obvious example of human herd behavior occurs in dense public crowds or mobs. That doesn't really say anything, especially regarding the question, so we'll forget that answer. And D, when herd behavior sets in, an individual person's judgment and opinion-forming process shuts down as she or he automatically follows the group's movement and behavior. That does give another bad connotation. So the correct answer in this one would be B, herd behavior is a good positive outcome for simple decisions.